that was the biggest lesson I learned, that, if I want to be good at entrepreneurship, I have to be good at building relationships, building strong teams. Otherwise, on my own, I can only go so far.
Today's guest, Rajesh Setty, published his first book as a 13-year-old kid in India and has gone on to write many others. He's an entrepreneur. He has co-founded and mentored many startups and is passionate about pursuing his life's mission, which is to bring good ideas to life with love. Yes, I'm Devon Harris. Welcome to Keep On Pushing, where we share ideas and insights that are going to challenge and inspire you to keep on pushing and live your best life. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel and yes, give us a like, man. Leave a comment below because it helps to grow the channel. We'd really appreciate your help. Enjoy.
This is Keep On Pushing TV with Devon Harris.
Welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. I'm your host, Devon Harris. And yeah, man, our goal hasn't changed. We want to share ideas that are going to challenge and inspire you to keep on pushing and in the process, live your absolute best life. Because look, we want that for you, of you, and from you. And if you want the same thing, I have really good news. You're in the right place. So again, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. My guest today is a serial entrepreneur based in Silicon Valley. He was and has been instrumental in founding several US and India technology publishing companies, the latest being Audivisor, a push-button learning and communication platform for enterprises. He is the author of 16 books and almost 2,000 blogs. Very, very busy guy. I'm so excited to welcome my friend Rajesh Setty to the show. Rajesh, welcome to Keep On Pushing.
I'm so excited to be here. Let's keep on pushing. That's a great tagline there.
Yeah, well, you know what, man, I really love chatting with you, Rajesh, because, I love learning at your feet. You have so much wisdom to share, and every time we talk, I kind of feel like I leave the conversation the better for it. So thank you for spending time with me and by extension, the Keep On Pushing audience. So, you have had a storied career, and so we start there with your bio of what you're doing now. But before you became this, prolific, author and high-flying serial entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, you were a long-haired little boy growing up in India. So I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit about those early days and what prompted that obsession that you developed for reading.
Yeah, I'm a big story buff. That means I love stories. Any kind of stories attract me. So when I was a very young kid, when I was about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, I started getting fascinated with mystery, fantasy. I used to read a lot of books. When I say a lot of books, a lot. By the time I was about 9, I read about 700 books. And before you say anything, my mom will say most of them were useless books because none of them were, everything was fantasy, thrillers, all sorts of things. But I used to play a game with myself, Devon, that because I read so many, I should know how the book will end. So what will be the end? If it is a mystery, how will the mystery be solved? And I used to think, I got it. This time I got it. And then every time the author does something else, I used to get very frustrated. And so much that at about when I was 9, I said, if I write my own novel, then nobody can tell me what to do. I can make the characters do what I want. Took me about 8 months. I finished a novel, 200 pages. And then the madness began. Because I thought, hey, how many people will write a book at 10? I should be able to just walk into a publishing house. They will put a red carpet welcome for me. And then I'll be a published author. little did I know that reality was different from fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting rejected faster than I was pitching. So in between 10 and 13 and a half, I got rejected 160 times. And then finally, when I was 13, I got my first book published. So that was the turning point. Before I was 17, I got 6 more books published. 13 to 17, I worked as a local journalist for a local newspaper. And I learned so many things in that process, which I still use in my entrepreneurial career.
Mm. So I'm kind of curious because, 10 to 13, you're rejected by publishers 160 times. I don't know of many young person, regardless of where in the world you are from, who would continue to persist in the face of such rejection. What was it about you that allowed you to keep on pushing?
I used to change the perspective in my own mind. So when I first got rejected, I thought they made a mistake and I'd call them back again, thinking that, hey, I think you didn't hear me right. I've written a book. Until they said, no, don't call me again. I'll call the police or something like that. Because most people would think it was a prank, person impersonating a kid, trying to
Mhm.
just harass them. So, but I did not know, because when you are so young, you don't know what is rejection, failure, and all those things. I said, I think they might be in a bad mood, Next week I'll call
Mhm.
them again, like that. And after about 50, 60 rejections, I thought this is not happening. This may be difficult. Then I put a different story in my head. Who knows? Everybody might get rejected maybe 200 times before they first get published. I mean, not even halfway there. I should get rejected faster and faster so that I can
Mhm.
finish the rejection quota and then get it over with. So
Yeah.
uh, it's always how you think about a rejection rather than the rejection that is a problem. And every time I got rejected, uh, I also built some people who are like my well-wishers, and they used to say, "What did you learn from it? Did you learn anything?" And then every rejection was a lesson in my own growth. That's how I kept going.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. So what you discovered at that age and what many of us need to learn at our, more mature age beyond 10 to 13 is that rejection and failure has more to do with the stories that we
Yeah.
tell ourselves, right? And you said something that reminded me of the Jack Welch, I think it was him who says that, hey, double your rate of failure. If you want to succeed, double your rate of failure.
That is so true. In parallel, what I was doing, my hope was always high, very high, because I said, I just need to get one break and then things will change. So, and I would make up my own things. If I do get one break, what will change? Oh, okay, they will ask me, is this the only book you have written? That's it. So I started
Mhm.
writing another book when I was between 11 or something. By the time I got my first book published, Devon, I had written 5 books, thinking
Mhm.
that somebody will give me a 5 book deal or 3 book deal, because I kept creating without worrying about what happens, like that.
Right. Right. So you had seems like you had really big, high ambitions, big dreams even then. So you described this part of your life as kind of achieving a PhD in failure. And I know we're just kind of discussing that, but I wanted to see if you could expand on that a little bit more. Getting a PhD in failure and how, the challenge, I think, Rajesh, is that so many people see themselves as a failure when they achieve a result that they didn't want, as opposed to just seeing the event and the results as failure. How, beyond just changing, say, the stories, how would you suggest they work past those moments?
Yeah, in fact, if you never fail, then I worry that you are staying in the same lane that you are in, that doing exactly what you are doing and expecting some magical things to happen. I did a research, Devon, for 7 years on why smart people get stuck. And then I wrote my book. It's going to be called Smart But Stuck. In that, I say there are 7 kinds of getting stuck. Only one kind is good. The kind that is good is when you walk the unpaved road, and then you start walking in the zone of discomfort, then you fail, because what happens is in that territory you are an amateur. You may be good in what you are doing. When you start trying things that you have never done, unless you are God, you will always falter here and there. So I always think that, you know, I remember the CEO of Spanx. So she said when she was a young girl, her dad used to ask her every single day during the meal. No, not every single week during the meal. Said, "What did you fail at today, this week? What did you fail at?" And then when she was young, she used to think, why is he asking this question? What he was trying to instill in her was that unless you fail something, you are not tried something that you are not supposed to try. Like
Mm-hmm.
you always walked in the path of comfort zone. So my thinking is not only failure should be treated right, it should be welcomed, which means the only way you know that you are walking out of your comfort zone is if you fail. So
Yeah.
it's almost like uh, not only you should know how to respond, you should also welcome it. So
Yeah.
unless you welcome it, then it becomes part of you.
It's an interesting story, you know, asking your child, hey, what did you fail at today? Because that's not the typical of the subject that most parents want to have with their kids. Is well, hey, how did you succeed
Yes.
today? But you're absolutely right. You can't, if you're always in your comfort zone, you know, in your sweet spot, then you're not being challenged, and you won't have an opportunity to fail and hence learn and grow. Um, so I know from your story, you know, that your parents didn't really want you to be a writer, and you were kind of heading in that direction. You mentioned that you had a job as a journalist as a teenager. Um, so you decided to become an engineer. What inspired you to move in that direction?
There was no inspiration per se, Devon, because my mom thought if I become a writer, she will become a failure. Because in India, when I was growing up, moms wanted their children to be engineers or doctors. That's it. Anything else that means mom is failed. So she came to me with a piece of paper saying, hey, I don't want you to think that you don't have choices. You have three choices. Pick one. Choice number one, engineer. Choice number two, doctor. Choice number three, loser. Which one do you want? So it's all, I said, okay, let me pick the first one, right? So basically, I picked the first one.
Hey,
So
might as well. You chose number one, right?
yes, what is number one? Because, and I love my mom, like all of us do. So basically, I said, if I become an engineer, I don't want her to ever feel that I became an engineer only for her. So I dropped writing, and I started getting interest in accelerated learning. How do you learn something fast? Because I have all these extracurricular activities, writing, journalism, and then competing in debates, all those things. But if I take the time, then I don't have time to read. So I have less time to read. That means I have to get more out of whatever time I spend on reading. So I
Mm.
became an expert, and I became very curious about how the examination system works. Because ultimately it's you write something, and then they don't know how much you know, but they only know how much you write as to how much you know. So in every single public exam in class 10, there were 550,000 or so students. I was number 20 for the state. Class 12, I was number 2. Engineering entrance exam, I was number 6. Engineering, I was 4th for the university. Then I closed my books, never looked at it again. So I became an electronics engineer. Mom is very happy. But I did want to study something I wanted to learn, Devon. That's when I got interested in linguistic philosophy, which is
Before you talk to us about that, and I'm really curious to hear, you mentioned accelerated learning. And obviously, it was important for you to be able to learn quicker so you could continue to write. What are some of the tips you could share with us about developing that ability to learn quickly?
there is so many simple things that we can do. Like example, if you look at Baroque music, it comes in at a certain frequency. You use that music when you're learning in the background, automatically learning goes up by at least 25%. It's so easy to find. There are accelerated learning tapes. There is a person that is living close to us called Stephen Halpern. I'll send the link so we can put the link in the show notes. So Stephen Halpern has accelerated learning music, and it's very cheap. There is not very expensive at all. Nowadays, everything can be downloaded. Earlier, I used to buy cassette tapes. Now nobody knows what is a cassette tape. So everything is just click a button and then you start learning. The
Right.
second thing is what you do when you learn is when you just put information in your brain, it's not learning. If you can put it in a context and make something happen with it, then all of a sudden learning goes deeper. Third is putting pen on paper makes learning go deeper. So basically, you start typing. A computer is an ultimate productivity machine and an ultimate distraction machine also. So basically, as soon as you go to the computer, you start clicking away as if you're a monkey with a keyboard, and then you go everywhere. That's why it's called a World Wide Web. That means you get stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
So people underestimate the value of pen and paper. So my thinking is, I have a policy called no insight left behind, like no child left behind, no insight left behind. Suppose I learn something from this talk right now, I immediately think, how can I apply it in any one of my projects? If I don't have a project to apply it in, I say, who among my friends have any project that where they can apply it? If I find nothing, I say, can I share it in social media so somebody else finds it useful so they can apply it in their project? I don't want an insight to be left behind without being applied to it. Applied.
Mm, interesting. Thank you for that. When I have to chew on that, and I love that idea of no insight left behind. I'm gonna have to work on that. So talk to us about neurolinguistics and your linguistics and your interest there.
Yeah, linguistic philosophy is simply your world is created in your words. So that's the core of it. That means you bring forth to life based on how you speak about it. It's all about distinctions. See, suppose let me take some silly example. Suppose let's say we both were not human beings. I come first to this earth, and then I'm here a few minutes earlier than you, and then I come to a hotel where there is a pen, but I don't know what it is, right? So I have no idea. So I just sit there and ask the person, "What is this?" So it's a pen. He is thinking, "What a idiot! He does not know what is a pen." I ask, "What do you do with the pen?" I learn everything about the pen, and then I'm a little bit. I like to play pranks, and you come in. You are also from another planet. You sit on the chair next to me, and there's a pen there. And if I say, "Devon, can you please pass me that pen?" You will have no idea what I'm talking about. It's right there, but you will have no idea. Once you
Mm-hmm.
name it, you bring it forth to life. I can play even bigger prank. I take the pen and put it as a door stopper. And then I say, Devon, can you please give me the pen? You not only don't know it's a pen, you for sure know it's a door stopper,
Yeah.
isn't it? So I
Mm-hmm.
can
You're right.
go deeper and deeper based on how people look at words and how it will bring forth their words. It's a fascinating topic. And it has been the foundation of all my work after I got exposed to it. My companies, my books, my speeches, everything is based on linguistic philosophy.
How does one apply that philosophy to everyday life?
So first is to notice it. Like so many people ask me, how do you become a better storyteller? Like for example, I say you become a better story observer. That's how it starts. Because if you didn't notice it, you will not even see that there is any power in it. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, I can say many. I'll use one thing. I want to say I want to build long-term relationships. So I can say that, Devon, I want to build long-term relationships, and people will say, yeah, that's cliche topic. What is so big deal about it? Suppose I use a little bit of a oomph. I say, Devon, I have only three kinds of relationships. One is long-term, other one is very long-term, third one is lifetime. Now I said the same thing, but it has more power in it. Or
Mm-hmm.
I can say in another way, Then whenever I meet someone I like, I give them a one-way ticket to my heart. When they reach there, it's like Hotel California. They can never leave.
You can never leave.
So you see, all I did was change words, change words, change words, and it increases the power.
Yeah.
For example, when I teach some entrepreneurs how to pitch, sometimes I just have to add two words and it will make the pitch magical. So I'll give an example. Somebody is trying to sell something to nurses, a software program, a process or something. They would come and start, here is what you need to do. This is what we do. I said, you just add these two words. Just imagine you are a nurse in a hospital. Let me tell you what we are going to help you with. So if you add the word just imagine and put what they have to imagine, suddenly the listener gets transported because they can imagine things very quickly. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
How will it help me? You see, it's two words and it made a big difference.
Right. And they put themselves right there in the
Yes,
situation and connect with it.
correct.
Um, so you went to engineering school, and as I mentioned at the top, that you're a serial entrepreneur. Talk to us about your foray into entrepreneurship. What was your first endeavor?
First endeavor is a forgettable one because as soon as I got out of college, I said, I must be so smart because I wrote a book when I was 13. I got ranks in all the public exams. I think I can make it happen. So I convinced two of my other friends to start a company. And then they all got convinced. It was like two blind people leading the other blind person. We had no clue. We didn't even know what we didn't know. So it's like unconscious incompetence is
Hmm.
what I can clearly describe. But there was a lesson there because when I tried to give up, people around me said, "Hey, Raj, you should not give up. You're so smart." So not only I didn't know, I was getting a motivation of a different kind, thinking, oh, maybe I should not give up. So instead of a death by a gunshot, it was like a death by 1,000 cuts, thinking, oh, maybe I
Right.
should not give up. I should not give up. Then
Right.
I realized one big lesson, Devon. Now I know it, but at that time I didn't. The two things I was good at, writing and studying, were both solo sports. You know it better. You are a competitive athlete. In a solo sport, you become good at a solo sport, and suddenly you go to a team sport like an entrepreneurship, and you try to apply whatever you are good at in the other sport. It's not easily translate because the rules are
Hmm.
different. Like you have to work like a team. So that was the biggest lesson I learned. That if I want to be good at entrepreneurship, I have to be good at building relationships, building strong teams. Otherwise, on my own, I can only go so far.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I love that analogy, and it's true. There are some athletes who a track athlete who's really good at just focusing on their discipline. The minute you join a team sport, although you still have the same athletic talents and abilities, the dynamics are very different because now you have to figure out how you're going to succeed working with others, and that's what entrepreneurship is. And so, as you and your two other blind friends are leading each other, as you describe it, I think what's important there to go back to the very beginning of our conversation, although you failed, quote unquote, you learned. So it was a tremendous learning experience. Um, so I know you speak about capacity and building capacity, and in my mind, you leaving college, starting your business, and failing meant that there were some, capabilities, some skills that were missing from that first endeavor, and so you have built your capacity into becoming a serial entrepreneur. So, share some thoughts with us on that philosophy of building capacity.
Yeah, my thinking is like this, Devon, that power is capacity to take meaningful action, right? So when somebody says I'm powerful, I always think they have the capacity to take meaningful action. So how do you build power? Not in terms of like prestige and all those things, but actually to get things done, you need a certain set of things. And if you think you have to do everything, then the capacity is always limited, which means what other capacity do we have? There is capacity that money can buy. If you are very, very rich, you can just pay and get things done. There is capacity comes from relational equation. You have done something good for somebody else, and they say, hey, I want to help you back. That's another capacity. It's called a reciprocal capacity. So when you're starting out, I always tell people that if there is one thing that you need to succeed, it is an oversupply of good help available at the push of a button. Like you want help, good help, push a button and you got it. Then whatever problems you face, you know that you can push that button and get that help. But how do you get there? Because it's not magical, right? You cannot wish for it. You have to work for it. So how you get there is you be that source of push button for help to many, many people who needed it before. So you build that whole the bank of karma, as they say. You build a whole reservoir of it. So when you
Yeah,
need,
you're making lots of deposit in your love bank, as it were.
yes, exactly. So that's why it's a long-term thing. That's why you can say that long-term relationships have a magical advantage, but you cannot build long-term relationships in the short term. You cannot fast track it, isn't it? So I say that if there is one ability that people should develop, especially if they want to be entrepreneurs, it's their ability to give meaningful gifts at scale at a very low incremental cost to them. So if they can develop that, then automatically the bank account, the karma account keeps
So
increasing.
expand on that for us, Rajesh. Giving meaningful gifts at scale with, you know.
At a very low incremental cost to them.
Yes.
Basically, if you think there are so many things in there, that's why I love linguistic philosophy. When I say meaningful gift, that label is given by the receiver, not by the giver. So otherwise, one person can cheat. They can give some trivial gift and say, "Ah, I am giving a meaningful gift." No, no, no. The receiver has to say it's a meaningful gift. How will they say it? There is no scale. There is no meters, liters, nothing, right? So I always go back to another analogy. And if I say, Devon, you have studied so much. Do you remember every single teacher that has taught you from kindergarten to your college? There is no chance that you will remember all of them. There was one girl who remembered it, but that was an exception. But
Right.
usually it's not. And then I said, Devon, do you at least remember some of them? A few teachers, at least you will say yes. And they fall into one of two categories. One, they were very bad. They were so bad that you remember them as not good teachers.
Yeah, can never forget that.
Then they were very good. The other ones you remember, they were very good. And one or two of them, they were so good that you almost attribute who you have become to some of the things that they thought. There were one or two of them who were even more good that you say, if I had met them before I met them in my past, I would have been even better, right? So if somebody gives a truly, truly meaningful gift, you will start missing them in your past. I wish I met this person a few years ago. That's the hallmark of a truly meaningful gift. So that's the first one, ability to give a meaningful gift. It's not easy because you cannot make someone miss you in their past unless it was such an amazing gift of
Right.
knowledge, of a network or something. At scale, for you to do it at scale, you should master some channels. Like on your side, you are doing keep on pushing radio, keep on pushing TV. Why? Because that is how you expand your reach. Otherwise, there is no scale because there is only so much that even somebody like Devon Harris is only 24 hours. There's no one more extra hour because you're
Right.
Devon. And then at a very low incremental cost to you, which means it has to be a gift that you can give with your strengths, not with something that you have to work hard. When you are at your strengths, you are in your flow. So basically, you do it like magic. So, but how do you know what is your strength? That's the hardest part because your really big strength becomes invisible to you. You don't know it. Why? Because you do it so easily. It's like a piece of cake, walk in the park. So I have 7 ways you can identify your strength. I'll go to the last one, which is the most important one. It is watch for requests of help that come from competent people that have high stakes attached to it. So which means some smart person who is already good should come to you for help, and that what the area that they are coming to you for help should have high stakes associated with it, which means they think you are really good at it and you can truly help them, because if you give them bad help, it costs them dearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you start watching, why do people come to you for help? Especially competent people, smart people, when the stakes are high, you will see what the world sees your biggest strength as.
Right.
So that is when you discover your biggest strength. You need to know it, otherwise you may not put enough into it. Because when you know that this is my true strength, you will nurture it. You will make it even better.
Yeah.
That's you will become like a walking Santa Claus. Giving people.
Well, on that note, becoming a walking Santa Claus. Santa Claus is a guy who says yes to every. Well, now that I'm thinking about the song, if you were bad or naughty, you don't get a yes. But
Yes,
but generally speaking, if you're a good kid, Santa's gonna say yes to
yes,
whatever request you have.
yeah,
Um, many of us, present company included, when someone asks me to do something, the first word off my lips is yes, without even thinking of how it may negatively impact me. I'm always so willing to help, and sometimes I don't know if the word detriment is the correct word, but sometimes to my disadvantage, because
yeah.
whether it's time or just puts me in a bad situation. So Rajesh, how do we stop becoming Santa Claus, man? How do we learn to say more no more often?
Yeah, this is a tough problem for many people, right? It's easy to say yes, and especially people don't watch what they say yes to. In the heat of the moment, they feel good about it, they say yes, and there are so many problems with it. Which means if they help the wrong people, that means they robbed themselves of the capacity to help the right people. Because it's only 24 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
So while
Mm-hmm.
they think I should say yes, they also should know that that means this capacity to say yes to somebody else is gone, because it's over. It's like when a airline takes a flight, all the seats are gone, even the empty ones, everything is gone. When the clock goes from 12 hours to 12 hours, the 12 hours are gone. So I always think that what should they do so that they know they're helping the right people. There are two. I'll come to the how to say no, but before even saying no, I have something called as a welcome hurdle. So which means they are welcome into my heart, but they have little small hurdle. Like in the sports, they say put some hurdles, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
hurdle will filter out the wheat from the chaff. Like for example, somebody says, "Hey, you have written so many books. I have a book idea. Can we discuss it?" I say, "Of course, you can. But why don't you fill this book proposal template?" And I have a template. I send it to them. It's 18
Mm-hmm.
pages. If they fill it and send it to me, then I can have a good conversation. But how many people send it back? 1 out of 100, because most
Right.
of the people are not interested in it anyway. So they
Mm-hmm.
just want to have a intellectual conversation. That's about it. Ideas, ideas, ideas.
Right.
That's the first way, without even having to say no. You just create it. Then there is a exact process to say no that makes it easy. This I learned it from a professor somewhere, I forget his name, but I've used it every single time. So it has 5 steps. First is to restate the request. And it's like, suppose you say, "Hey Raj, I think you come from India. Can you teach me how to cook this South Indian dish or something?" That's your request, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Devon, you want me to teach how to cook South Indian that dish?" And when you say it, you know what you are saying no to. You are
Right.
repeating.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part is very important. You have to use the word no clearly. So not saying, let me think. No, you have to say no. That's it.
Right.
Teach how to cook South Indian dish. No. So that's exactly, it cannot be anything else. It cannot be diluted. No, it can muted. No, nothing. And then you have to give a reason. It could be as simple as, well, because I suck at it. So you want me to teach how to cook South Indian dish? No, because I suck at it. And then fourth step is, if there is an alternative, there, let's say there is a South Indian cooking website. If I say, I can point it to it. So I can say, do you want me to teach how to cook in the South Indian dish? No, I suck at it. But here is this southindiancooking.com. You should take a look. There are so many recipes. And you follow up with the fifth one, which is how to teach the other person what kind of a request is welcome, which is in your area of strengths. It would be like this. Devon, you want me to teach how to cook South Indian this dish? No, I suck at it. But there's a southindiancooking.com. It's amazing. But if you ever want to write a book, you should call me. So then I might be able to help.
Right, right.
In the 5 steps, you told so many things: clear no, a reason, an alternative, and a good request coming your way.
And then if they really contact you about writing a book, you have that, hey, fill out this book template, so you find out whether or not they really are serious, and you read them out.
The good news is, Devan, there are many people who are serious, which means you build a long relationship with them, because you want to support people who are doing amazing things. I say that to amplify awesomeness, you should not require a reason, isn't it? So if there is something awesome, you should amplify it anyway. So I'll go out of the way to help them, because they need that help. That nurturing is required. The noise is like weeds; they grow on their own. But the flowers or the signals, they need nurturing, sunlight, manure, everything.
So let's then talk about networking, i.e. the people that you have in your circle, in your network, that will come to you asking for help, and you're a Santa Claus to some of these people. You taught us how to say no to some of them as well. But there are, maybe this group of people that they come to you asking for help in your area of strength, and they are serious, and you're happy to help them. Obviously, as we said, this is a team sport. This is not track and field where you're running the 100 meters. This is bobsledding where you need 3 other guys on the sled. But you need them to be reliable. How do you navigate that environment, the dynamics of the network that you operate in, to make sure that you're giving help willingly, passionately, but when you need help in return, you can find help as well?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a practical question. People don't realize that not everything is easy in this. There are subtle nuances. I'll go through it. So if you have seen the book, Professor Adam Grant wrote a book called Give and Take. It's a really good book where he says, there are 3 kinds of people. Givers, which are only 5%. They give and they don't expect anything in return. And takers, who are 15%. They take and they don't want to give you anything in return.
Yeah.
There are 80% of the people, they are called matchers. Which is, matchers means they will give something, but as long as they get something in return and back more. So that's the way it is. Now, once you know it, you will become, if you are giving to the taker, then you are at fault, because it's like sending something to the black hole and expecting it to return back. Nothing happens there.
Right.
When you're giving to the giver, you are adding capacity, which means that they are giving, so you give them and they increase their capacity to give. But there are only 5% of the people. When you're giving to a matcher, you should know that they are always in some heavy-duty math calculation.
It's a very transactional relationship.
Yes. So usually you will find a tribe of people with big hearts and big brains, and then they have a reciprocal mindset. You will not be able to find them because they're not putting a label on their head. So only way to know it is by looking at their actions, right? So you use the 80-20 rule and assume that 80% of the help you provide is gone. So you will think that it's very dark. It's not. I'll tell you why. The 20%, if you do it at scale, if you do everything at scale, the 20% is more than enough to give you the help back whenever you need it, because you're doing this at scale. Right. Second, the 80% of help that you give is not all gone waste. It's like this. So as athletes, we know that if you practice, you get better. So the same for thinking. So if you practice thinking, then you get better. So if you are helping someone with your thinking, what happened? They might forget about you, but your thinking got better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you are always good. You'll never run out of anything. There is nothing. There's no capacity lost as long as you know that 80% of the people forget your help. It
Right. Right.
feels sad, but when you do it at scale, the 20% is more than sufficient to get your help back.
That's interesting. So even as you spend time thinking about helping someone, or more importantly, thinking up a creative solution to help them, whether or not they appreciate it, show gratitude for the help, you would have benefited tremendously because you'd have increased your capacity to think.
Exactly. You see, the biggest lesson people, especially young people, have to learn is there is a content, which could be idea or anything. There is a context, which is the real life scenario. Content to context translation at real time and making it happen, whatever is in the idea stage, to actually make it work in this present context is a huge skill. And
Mm-hmm.
when somebody asks you for help, you get to practice that skill, content to context translation, and in real life, navigating through the nuances there to make something happen. It's a gift,
Yeah.
isn't it? Otherwise, you read it in the book and you say, oh, I think it works. No, no, it does not work. The, the book and the terrain are very different.
Indeed, indeed. You know, one of the themes I would say, Rajesh, that has underlined our conversation right now is that conversation, communication. Um, you know, because as you step out of your individual sport into a team sport, a group of entrepreneurs, you have to have great communication, not just figuring out how you're going to apply your individual skills to the situation, but how you're going to communicate, increase understanding, so that you can be successful. When someone comes to you for help in your network and vice versa, and you saying yes or no to that request requires um, a high level of communication to be effective. So talk us through, if you will, um, your views on communication and how we can improve that to become more effective.
It's for me, I'll say that sometimes people think that communication means doing better in speaking. Like, I want to speak better and all those things. I
Mhm.
think the heart of the communication is in listening. So it's not even speaking, it's how well do you listen? Do you listen in low fidelity or high fidelity? That means, are you listening to things that they're saying? And also, are you missing things that they're not saying? What is reading in between the lines? Are you good at it? Because why you need listening skills is because whatever you say, you're saying it to a human being, not a computer. That means they have their own emotions, they have their own history, they have their own baggage, they have their own circumstances. Whatever you say to one person, the exact same solution may not be easily applicable to the second person because they both are different. Unless you listen, you don't know what resonates with the other person. Why we can't listen? It's very simple. You're always thinking what to talk next. So
Yeah.
it becomes a problem. So I say, several years ago, I read a book called Fierce Conversations. I don't know whether you have seen it or not. It has been a game changer. It's This is the book, Fierce Conversations.
Mm.
A friend of mine, now a mentor, a guide, her name is Susan Scott. And what happened, it was in 2002, I read the book, and the very next day onwards, my life changed so profoundly that even today, I have to attribute a lot of things that have good things happen to me because of that book. The entire 400-page book can be summarized in 2 sentences. Shall I share it for the audience?
Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
It was like this. I'm paraphrasing now. Given that, while there is no guarantee that any single conversation can change the trajectory of your life, career, business, or a relationship, any single conversation can. What is the conversation that has your name on it?
Mm.
Once you get it very, very deeply into your DNA, you will never be able to have a conversation where you are not present to it. Because who knows? This could be the conversation that has your name on it.
Indeed.
Present to it. That's the second part. One is the listening. Second is being present. Is half the battle is won. The
Yeah.
third thing, which is so important in communication, is if you use all your experience, all your energy, all your creativity, and prove to the other person by giving something that will show the other person that you are a positive possibility in the future they are creating for themselves, then you got what you want. So they are creating their own future. You bring a positive possibility. They're convinced by what you are saying. Then they're open, because there's the third part, which is, are they open to listening to you? So you are listening well, you are present, but are they open? They will be open only if they think that you are a positive possibility in the future they are creating for themselves. So
Mm.
if you master these three things, then you almost won the conversation.
Yeah, I love that thought though of being present, and we talk about that all the time. That being present in the moment and being present in the conversation by actively listening, i.e., opening up your ears and asking questions and so on and so forth. But the thought that, hey, there's a conversation there that could change your life because your name is on it.
Yes.
And if you're not being present, if you're not paying attention, you would have missed it. Is I think powerful. Um,
Yeah, like I'll give an example right now. In this conversation, I was going somewhere and you said, hey, stop, I want to get to the story completely. I'll get back to what you were saying. And what did
mhm,
you do? In 5 minutes later, you got back to the conversation. You
yeah,
said, you told me something, I want to get back. Why? Because you are not only listening, you are present and you know this. I was trying to say something important, which means I have to bring Rajesh back to that conversation. Suppose you were not listening or you had a series of questions, you would have forgotten. You would have
right.
said, okay, question number
Just going
7.
through just going through the motions, as it were.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true too. That's very true. But so on the whole business of communication, and I get it, and I speak about it all the time. It's not just about talking; it's about listening. We're living in, to use your term, the 6-foot world right now. COVID-19 pandemic is rampaging throughout the world. Um, and there's a lot of confusion and chaos. So in my mind, there's a breakdown in communication, wouldn't you say?
100%. In fact, we are not used to, the water coolers have gone. The water cooler conversations cannot happen because people are not even meeting with each other. It is all the more reason to be fully present because it's all remote communications most of the time.
Hmm.
And all the more reason to have the right intent, because if you have the wrong intent, any kind of action, people will see through it, right? Because people are not dumb, they will see through it. What do you really want, kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
So you have to almost, that's why the no insight left behind, all those things will come into full force now, because it's easy to say I can do it whenever I want, but that whenever has no meaning because it has never in it, right? So you have to be proactive and do things that will make somebody else's life better. You don't want to wait for them to ask for help. You have to just go and see where do they need help? What strengths of mine can I put to use so that they get some help, even if they have not asked me?
Hmm. Hmm. So, I agree with you. People aren't stupid and they can see through falsehood and confusion. So I'm perplexed because, I'm looking around and especially here in the US, where so we have this virus that's airborne, and a large segment of the population still refuses to wear a mask, and I'm thinking to myself, they're not stupid. So is it that they're selfish? I understand the human resistant to change, and walking around with a mask is not something that you're accustomed to. You may not want to do it, but then we're saying, hey, think about your neighbors. What do you think it is? Is it a breakdown in communication? Is it I don't know, a don't care attitude. What is it you think that creates this tug of war between those who want to wear masks and those who don't want to?
I think it is, I mean, I thought about it a little bit. I may not have the exact answer, but I think they have some semblance of it, which is basically, it is starts with a breakdown. If there's a breakdown in leadership, right? Basically, if the leadership is good, then people want to follow. I don't know enough about politics, but imagine in the same place, if you are going, let's say they go to the church, and then there is somebody who they respect a lot, and the person, the father or anyone, who says, let's be responsible, let's take care of everybody else, and let's do this. He starts with there, and automatically people will follow because they respect this person. They will do it even if they don't agree. They will do it because they respect the leader. When the leadership breaks down, there is no role models to follow, isn't it? So then what happens? All hell breaks loose. So I always think that it's not what the leader says, it's what the leader does. And it's almost like whenever possible, even in those states that people are not wearing masks, all it requires is some of them to start like this. You know what? I believe in it. I'm going to practice it. And people watch and say, you know what? They're doing it. I will do it. So just like bad things spread fast, good things also spread, but do not be as fast as possible. But that should not be the reason why you should not do it.
So, in the 6-foot world, we often talk about, wow, we are going into the new normal. I mean, right now we're swirling around in a sea of uncertainty, and I don't think that life is going to be the way it was, last year this time. I know you are not a fan of the term new normal. You think we're heading into a new reality. I'm not sure I see necessarily a difference, perhaps semantics, and you're the linguistic expert here. You can talk to us about that. But tell us how you see the world changing fundamentally because of this pandemic.
It is a big change that people are almost underestimating how big the change is going to be. I studied a bunch of historical events, the Spanish flu and World War II, and lots of things. There have been bad things happening in the history also. It is not the first time. There was a Great Depression and all of them. But usually world comes back with an elastic world. It keep coming back and then coming back to what they call as normal, right? But things changed drastically even before this, during 9/11, when people crashed airplanes to the big buildings. Immediately after that, there was irreversible change. What was that? And people didn't know who to trust. So basically, there may be somebody among us who is not a good person, and they ratcheted up the security, and you could have knocked on.
That's very true. I remember, in the maybe up to a year, 2 years after 9/11, flying, and if I get up to go to the restroom, people will be watching me suspiciously, and I would do the same thing too. So yes, the world has changed in that respect.
So that was the first change that is irreversible, because you don't know whether this person is good or not. This one is even worse, because it could be a friend who is an innocent person who is a carrier of this virus, and you don't know who to trust. It came to a whole different level of messing with the mind. So that's why I said 9/11 was, if a change is 1 out of 10, so the big one, this is about 6 out of 10, because people don't know how to deal with it, and it will be the same thing unless there's a complete blanket service that will blanket out all the viruses and bacteria and all those things. So this change is not going to create anything new normal. It's going to create a new reality. And the people who just forget about the past and deal with this as this is the new reality, they will be okay. Because the problem is when people compare the past to the present. So if somebody got dropped in right now on this planet, they'll be just fine because they'll think this is the way it works. In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
we do it all the time. When I come from India, I look at how we drive in India and how we drive here. It's very different. You drive on the right, there we drive on the left. And I don't come and say,
No, in India, in India, you drive on the correct side. In America, they drive on the other side.
if you go to several places in India,
That's our secret.
if you go to some places in India, they will drive wherever they want. It's up to you to survive. If you are a pedestrian, good luck with that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So, a new reality is dawning, and I can see how people can get nostalgic for the good old days.
Correct.
And I think that that is going to linger, and perhaps part of the challenges is that we're looking at the challenges, the problems that the virus is creating, as opposed to thinking about the possibilities. And we always kind of find what we look for, right?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, there are people who are doing good in this world. So basically, I connected to somebody on LinkedIn and he said, Raj, I'm so busy. I'm booked out until 2021 December. I said, what exactly do you do? So she said, I'm a pandemic preparedness expert. So that's what it is. So there are some things that will become more, and like all the people who are doing help with remote working, all of them seeing a huge change. All the educational companies, they're seeing a huge spike because now education is even more important because you need to keep up to the new skills and everything. So there is a wave. So every problem creates new possibilities. If you focus on the problem, you don't see the possibilities. If you so focus on the possibilities, you still need to deal with the problem, but you now have possibilities, you have the motivation and drive to get there.
Yeah. I was actually just yesterday speaking about our current situation, and one of the things I mentioned is that we need to be grateful, and so I think we'll probably end the conversation on this subject, because a lot of people, when you say that, hey, be grateful, they go, are you crazy? We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's so many things that are going wrong. What is there to be grateful for? And I think we all know, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I think you have written a book on gratitude. So talk to us about being grateful even during challenging times.
See, first of all, when somebody gets something, accomplishes something, they always think that they did it. I have a big question mark on it. They cannot do it on their own. So even whatever they did, it requires so many people to coordinate with them. And then the timing has to be good and there has to have some luck. All of it together is what makes them get something done. So if you don't look at it in high fidelity, like who all helped me, there it could be, suppose you were born in some ungodly place somewhere else, then you would not even have the opportunity. So first of all, you got the genetic lottery, right? So you were born in some place that is good. Starting from there, you look at the number of things that are given to you, whether you deserve it or not, you will automatically be grateful because a lot of things were not you. It's things coming together.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not grateful, here is this practical problem. Forget about moral, ethical, and all that. Practically, you will think you did something when in fact you played only a small part. In your ego says, I did it. And then you go to another place where all those things do not come together, you are in for a rude shock.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? The easiest, that's why in my book, Gratitude, I always give the practical reasons to be grateful. Forget about my mom told me I should be grateful, I'll be no. There's a real practical reason to be grateful, just so that you don't let your ego drive this ship somewhere else, somewhere wrong place.
Yeah, indeed. Rajesh, as always, man, whenever we connect, honestly, I feel like I'm just like, learning this, at your feet. And so thank you for your wisdom and the time that you've chosen to invest in us so that we could benefit from that wisdom. Uh, your journey from being a long-haired kid who discovered and became obsessed with reading to being as I said, a serial entrepreneur and an author and a mentor and someone who and a giver definitely epitomizes a keep on pushing philosophy. So again, thanks for joining us.
It was a super pleasure, Devon. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much for the great conversation.
Indeed. Thank you.